Okay, so Innistrad, Magic's 56th expansion, was released on September 30th, 2011. The set was designed top-down, which is to say that the card mechanics are intended to invoke a certain tone and setting, which is supported by the card's aesthetics. Innistrad specifically keyed off of gothic horror tropes and prominently featured 4 creature types. The first is humans. They are the protagonists of Innistrad, and the backstory of the set depicts them doing whatever they can to resist the other 3 creature types: zombies, vampires, and werewolves. What these 3 creature types have in common is that they traditionally depict humans that have been corrupted in some way. The idea of zombies and vampires are easy enough to capture on a card, but werewolves are a bit of a different beast. The designers of Innistrad were tasked with depicting both what a werewolf's like during a full moon and what that same werewolf is like the rest of the time. This is what they came up with: 1 card, 2 sides. Innistrad represents the first time in Magic's then 18-year history that designers had ever messed with the back of a card. Of course, these days, they put whatever the hell they want on the back of cards and no one bats an eye, but the double-face cards, or DFCs, of Innistrad were the first. There are a lot of reasons not to mess with Magic card backs. The most obvious one is, how do you shuffle it? This is footage of me shuffling my old Pioneer deck. When Winota got banned, the deck got banned along with it, but nevertheless, those of you who play Pioneer regularly are probably well aware that the DFC lands from Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim see a lot of play. And as you can see, I can't really shuffle this deck without getting tipped off to where the DFCs are in my deck at any given time. At this point, I know what you're thinking. Why not use card sleeves? And that makes sense. My response to that question is that while you're aware of what card sleeves are, what do you think the average amount of time is from when someone learns how to play Magic to when they become aware of sleeves? I'll give you a hint. The answer isn't 0. It's probably weeks, maybe even months. So for that player, in that in-between spot, opening a pack of Innistrad has the potential to be pretty confusing. But, as we all know, this hypothetical person's gonna figure out sleeves eventually, so let's simulate that. Wait a minute. Yep, you can see right through that sleeve. It's faint, but it's there. So you see, not all sleeves are totally opaque. Some are, some aren't. Then there's drafting. How do you draft with them? The answer is, it's weird. The first professional REL draft featuring DFCs took place at Grand Prix Santiago in 2011. What happened was, at the beginning of each pack, the DFCs were shown to everyone, and then drafted as normal. What that meant is that you could look around as people took their cards, pick up on what colors they were in based on whether or not they took a DFC. What that meant is that looking around the table during a draft, which used to be a red flag for cheating, was now a necessity in order to draft optimally. It was kind of a mess. So, starting with Shadows over Innistrad, professional REL drafts featured packs that were sleeved, while competitive REL and below still played out the same way that professional REL drafts used to. I know that because in the top 8 of an Eldritch Moon Draft PPTQ, I opened Gisela in my first pack, exuberantly announced it to the rest of the top 8, and then I won the tournament. Sick brags, I know. Another reason not to mess with Magic card backs is that they probably cost more to print than a normal card, not only in terms of changing up the printer's template of a card, but also in terms of changing up the makeup of a pack. Now each pack has to have a basic land, a token, a bunch of commons, 3 uncommons, a rare, and now a double-faced card, which can be any rarity. But perhaps the biggest reason of all not to do DFCs is that Magic cards already have a template for this. These designs already exist in Magic from 7 years before in Champions of Kamigawa block, which fans of the show will already know is great. But wait, this sucks. This sucks a lot. Admittedly, I've done 0 user testing to arrive at this conclusion. I am not the beneficiary of in-depth regression analysis or whatever. This shit sucks. It's inscrutable. I don't need a second opinion, and neither do you. This sucks! I don't care if you like this layout because A, you are lying, and B, it's bad. It's objectively bad. Where to start? Okay, let's tap it. We'll pretend it's attacking. Okay, now untap it. Oh wait, you just flipped it. Yes, you did. It was Aki Lava Runner before, and now it's Talk Talk. Obviously, this is a cherry-picked event, but it's not super hard to imagine this happening a bunch in practice. Both of these cards contain a narrative, but one is just so much easier to parse than the other, which is more important in Innistrad than usual because, again, Innistrad's design is top-down, with the core theme being humans versus their own corruption. Because the mechanics of the set were so heavily tied into its setting in the lore, and because the corruption of man is such an integral idea in Gothic horror, the narrative set upon each DFC needed to be easily understood. A good story won't reach a broad audience if it's too difficult to parse. Think House of Leaves versus literally any other book. Another strike against DFCs from a product perspective is that the upsides of the design aren't exactly quantifiable. There's obvious value in doesn't look like hot garbage, but that value is difficult to measure quantitatively. In the absence of a clear ROI analysis, prevailing wisdom will always come out ahead. So, to go ahead with something as paradigm-shattering as DFCs, you not only need a strong advocate for the consumer, but also an organization willing to trust that advocate enough to incur some extra costs in order to deliver something so revolutionary to consumers that they didn't even know they wanted it. The iPhone wasn't built based on user feedback. It was honed and crafted and iterated on by an organization who knew their audience better than their audience knew themselves. A DFC isn't the same thing as a computer in your pocket, but the logic still applies. This thing sucks, this thing doesn't. Innistrad's commitment to its core conceit and its audience is what makes the set widely known as one of the best Magic expansions of all time, if not the best. But maybe you think that's crazy talk. And if that's the case, just drop a thumbs up and then leave a comment and follow the link in the description and then buy some more Wizard Squares on TCGplayer. And if you really want to prove me wrong, if you really want to spite me, well, now is a great time to sign up for a TCGplayer subscription. I served as product owner on that back in 2019, so I fully endorse it. And that's all we got for this time. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.